The world just lost a true legend, a force in the ring, a legend of unimaginable comebacks, and a man who reinvented himself after every knockout. George Foreman has passed away at the age of 76. In this video, we remember a man who was as ferocious in the ring as he was beloved outside of it. George Foreman wasn't just a boxing champion, an Olympic gold medalist, an author, and a clever entrepreneur. He was a force of nature, a cultural icon, and a name forever etched into the archives of sports history. And now we reflect on a life that was anything but ordinary. In a statement released by his family, they announced, "With profound sorrow, we announce the passing of our beloved George Edward Foreman, who peacefully departed on March 21st, 2025, surrounded by loved ones." George Foreman wasn't just a champion inside the ropes. He was a legend whose impact stretched far beyond the boxing ring. He fought with an explosive fury, but what made George special was that he lived with purpose, a purpose that transcended the sport. This Houston-born kid, who grew up in a tough, segregated world, turned his life around in a way that's almost unimaginable. A father of 12 children, with all the boys named George, George Jr., George Monk Foreman III, George Big Wheel Foreman IV, George Red V, George Little Joey Foreman VI. He did it for a very simple reason: to instill in them a sense of unity. As he explained it during an interview with the Christian Broadcasting Network, "I wanted them to have something in common. I tell them if one goes up, we all go up. If one gets in trouble, we're all in trouble. I tell them, either live up to the name or change it." He was born in Marshall, Texas, on January 10, 1949. His family soon moved to Houston, where he and his 6 siblings were raised by a single mother. He grew up poor in the segregated American South. His school lunches often were mayonnaise sandwiches. He dropped out of junior high school and used his size and fists in street robberies, shoplifting, and intimidating school kids for their lunch money. He once admitted, "I was a bad guy, badder than anything you can imagine." But George turned it around, and at the age of 19, and in his 25th amateur fight, George captured the heavyweight boxing gold medal at the 1968 Olympics in Mexico City. That victory was just the beginning. A year later, George Foreman became the world heavyweight champion. But it was his fight with Joe Frazier in 1973 that shook the world. That iconic moment when Foreman knocked Frazier down became one of the most memorable calls in sports history.
George Foreman is the heavyweight champion of the world.
Then the world witnessed the rumble in the jungle.
Wait, Ali, a sneaky right hand. Another sneaky right hand. This time he worked over the shoulder, Foreman. Three, four, five, six. Foreman gets up to the knee. 8. That's it. The fight is stopped. Muhammad Ali.
In a shocking turn of events, Muhammad Ali knocked George out, sending his aura of invincibility crumbling. George Foreman vanished from the spotlight, taking time to find peace and purpose in a new direction, as a minister. In 1977, he became an ordained minister in the Church of the Lord Jesus Christ. And 10 years later, in an age-defying move, he returned to the ring in his 40s, proving that greatness doesn't always come with youth. George didn't return to the ring as the same man. He came back with a larger belly and a wider smile. He won 24 straight matches, and in 1994, at the age of 45, George pulled off one of the most improbable feats in sports history. He knocked out the undefeated Michael Moore to become the oldest heavyweight champion of all time. Not bad for a guy who had been written off as past his prime. George's final match was in 1997, leaving behind a professional record of 76 wins and 5 losses. But when his gloves were hung up for good, George didn't walk away into obscurity. No, he reinvented himself once again.
Busy day? My lean, mean, fat-reducing grilling machine is great to come home to. It lets you prepare hot, delicious meals in just minutes.
After his retirement from boxing, George went on to pursue his entrepreneurial spirit. The man who once shook the world with his fists would go on to captivate us with something entirely different: grills. The George Foreman Grill wasn't just a kitchen appliance, it became a pop culture phenomenon, raking in over 100 million units sold and making Foreman a fortune far greater than anything his boxing career could have ever afforded him. Through it all, his knockout punches, his unlikely comeback, his ministerial journey, and yes, even the grill that still sits in countless kitchens, George Foreman was so much more than just a fighter. He was a man who found joy in life and gave that joy to everyone who encountered him. His warmth, his humor, and his larger-than-life presence made him not only a boxing legend, but a beloved figure in American culture. George's true legacy isn't defined by his punches or his grills. It's about redemption, reinvention, and the fact that he was always able to rise again, stronger than before. A man who roared in the ring now leaves us with peace and a reminder that life's second chances are worth fighting for. Rest in peace, George Edward Foreman.